Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you tonight.
It seems like it's business in Cipla. I don't think we're not part, it doesn't seem like we're part of any transaction.
Cipla CEO Umang Vohra hints that a promoter stake sale could be off the table for now, says it does not seem like Cipla is part of any transaction and it is business as usual. Also adds Cipla has opened the window for employees to buy stock options 2 days ago. That's an exclusive. The retail rush continues on Dalal Street. SIP contribution since the start of this financial year surpasses 1 lakh crore rupees. Meanwhile, the Sensex and the Nifty end with marginal losses after a range-bound session today. Disney's global CEO Bob Iger says he's open-minded about potentially selling the India business. Hotstar continues to struggle, losing nearly 3 million subscribers between June to September. Disney reports $21 billion in quarterly revenue globally, promises additional cost-cutting to the tune of $2 billion. SoftBank reports a quarterly loss of $6.2 billion, largely on account of WeWork bankruptcy and the fall in tech stocks. Even a stellar listing of chipmaker ARM couldn't help SoftBank return to the black as it posts a fourth straight quarterly loss. Dabur's Berman family refutes all allegations made by Religare's independent directors. In an Economic Times report, tells CNBC TV18 the family satisfies all norms and criteria for Religare's acquisition, calls the allegations against them false and defamatory, say they have assets far in excess of the proposed acquisition. Some relief for gaming companies. The Madras High Court sets aside parts of the Tamil Nadu government's law that banned online rummy and poker. Rules that ban cannot extend to games of skill, upholds the industry's argument that the state can regulate but not ban. The Israel military claims Hamas has lost control in northern Gaza even as it continues to bomb residential areas in the city. World leaders press for a ceasefire. Israel's prime minister says no ceasefire without the release of all hostages. Over 10,500 Palestinians have been killed so far, including 4,300 children. Air quality remains hazardous across Delhi and large parts of North India. The Union Cabinet Secretary chairs a meeting of state chief secretaries from Delhi and adjoining states as ordered by the Supreme Court. Uber urges the Delhi government to reconsider the ban on vehicles that are not registered in the capital. In a bid to fast-track pending cases against elected representatives, the Supreme Court directs all high courts to initiate suo motu proceedings. Calls for regular monitoring of pending trials against MPs and MLAs, asks judges to facilitate special courts and lays down uniform guidelines for such cases. The Supreme Court is back to full strength after nearly 18 months as 3 new judges take oath. The Chief Justice also completes 1 year in office. We take a look back at his big verdict so far. All of that and more coming up for you, but let's start with the market action for the day, where the Sensex and the Nifty ended with marginal losses after a range-bound session. So we saw the mid-caps managing to buck the trend, ending with some gains. The Nifty Bank Index also managed to end in the green. Mutual fund data has pointed to an interesting trend. The contribution from SIPs so far in FY24 has crossed 1 lakh crore rupees. So where are the markets headed as Diwali approaches? Well, let's listen into veteran investors Manish Chokhani and Ramdev Agarwal. Here's their outlook on the year ahead.
If we don't get 100 billion a year, I would be very, very surprised.
Okay.
And I do think in this decade, we will be the bubble market of the world.
100 billion per year?
Per year. No,
FDI.
I said FII plus debt plus FDI. Okay. Cumulative inflow. So your balance of payment problems and the rupee depreciation is gone.
Okay.
You are the momentum market going forward in this decade. The way the world flipped on Japan with one trade of Buffett, because everyone's acting like lemming. There is a single trade, single dimensional investing going on. I think we are setting ourselves up for that.
Okay.
It's still away. I mean, let's get the May election out of the way and then we see.
The rally could start immediately after 7th December election.
Because depending on the outcome or irrespective? Or
irrespective.
Irrespective.
I mean, if it is very bad outcome, then market may correct a little bit and then the rally will start.
You think we will have a rally into general elections?
Yes. Because this is what happened in October 2014.
Okay.
I mean, the moment in Goa, Mr. Modi was nominated as the Prime Minister candidate, I think the market actually rallied before the election. After that,
it started in October 2014 to 13.
13, yeah. October 13 to 14.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of a timeline we have this time.
Okay.
I don't know what the market does, but my sense is that depending on the result and the mood, we could rally.
And you can catch the full conversation with Ramdev Agarwal and Manish Chokhani tonight at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV18. Well, let's head to earnings corner now. Adani Ports has posted more than a 27% growth in its top line for the second quarter. Net profit up more than 4%. Margins expanded by about 60% on an annual basis. The company's cargo volume grew 14%, which was largely led by improved operational efficiencies. The company's also said that there is no adverse impact on the operations at its Haifa port in Israel due to the war as things currently stand. Staying with earnings, Apollo Hospitals reporting a mixed bag in Q2. Revenue and margins ahead of estimates. However, net profit missed the mark. On an annual basis, both net profit and revenue rose 14% each. Margins contracted nearly 13%. Well, the big newsmaker this evening, Cipla's CEO Umang Bora has hinted that a promoter stake sale could be off the table for now. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV18's Ekta Batra, Bora said, and I quote, "It does not seem like Cipla is part of any transaction and it is business as usual at the company," end of quote. He also maintained that news surrounding a potential stake sale is speculative, adding that the window for employees to buy stock options opened 2 days ago. He also cited Tata Sons and Asian Paints as examples of promoters and professional management coexisting through generations. Take a look at the big CNBC TV18 exclusive.
There's been so much speculation about whether or not Cipla is on the block, whether the deal will go through. What can we expect? I know you're a part of the company and not a part of the promoter entity, but can you clear the air for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. Whatever we do is public. The companies maintain that this is a speculative speculative sort of information that's around in the marketplace. The company doesn't comment on it. The promoters have not commented on it. We respond to what we do as a company through various statutory, announcements, etc. There has been none. Right. As of 2 days back, we also opened the window for our employees. So I think people could infer, right, that things are, based on all of this, that, it seems like it's business in Cipla. I don't think we're not part, doesn't seem like we're part of any transaction. Otherwise, we wouldn't have opened the window.
Okay, but what about the future of Cipla? Because Dr. Hamid obviously must be thinking about what he wants to do next.
Yes.
And where he wants to leave Cipla. What do you think is probably the most feasible option for him, or what he's most comfortable with? A PE, a promoter entity, or maybe the second generation running it?
I think it's difficult for me to, try to unravel the depths of Dr. Hamid's experience, mind, thinking at this point in time. I can only tell you what I pick up, right, from him. I think he's most concerned about Cipla, right? And it doesn't matter to him, at least the way I've understood, about ownership. He just wants the ethos of Cipla to continue. And to a certain extent, he's relying tremendously on the management team to continue to do that. And, he's pointed out several examples to me of how companies such as the Tata Sons, how companies such as Asian Paints, these continue to coexist through generations of promoters and generations of management, right? And so in a sense, it's not Dr. Hamid's problem anymore. The way it's been told to me, it's become my problem now to ensure that the company continues to survive, continues to live, has succession of people in the management side. And as much as he plans for succession on the ownership side, I have to plan for succession on the management side. So it's a dual problem, and I think we're rested with it.
Well, that is Umang Bora. You can catch that CNBC TV18 exclusive with Cipla's CEO at 10:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV18. The big global story that we're tracking, Disney has beaten street expectations in the September quarter, boosted by strong growth in its theme park business and profits from ESPN+. However, there's been a decline in ad revenue, which has weighed on the top line. The mass media giant also increased its cost-cutting target to $7.5 billion. Meanwhile, Disney Hotstar continues to struggle. The streaming platform has lost nearly 3 million subscribers in India in the September quarter. Speaking to CNBC, Disney CEO Bob Iger said the company would like to stay in India, but remains open-minded about sale of assets. Take a look.
You said that you're looking at all of your assets. Do you have plans to sell your India assets, India Hotstar assets? Any update there?
I don't have an update. I'd say the same thing about them that I said about our linear networks. We're looking in an open-minded way. We like being in business in India. We'd love to be able to strengthen our hand. I can't, at this point, predict where that will end up.
Well, that's Disney's Bob Iger on what they intend to do with their Indian assets. In global earnings, SoftBank has reported a loss of $6.2 billion in this quarter. This is the fourth straight quarter in the red, largely due to the WeWork bankruptcy as well as a fall in tech stocks. SoftBank's Vision Fund has suffered an investment loss of close to $4 billion in the first half of this fiscal year. But for the second quarter, the Vision Fund has reported an investment gain of over $1 billion. Now back home, the Burman family, which runs FMCG company Dabur, has responded to CNBC TV18. It has refuted allegations made by the independent director of Religare Enterprises. Now, according to an Economic Times report, 5 independent directors of Religare have accused the Burman family of wrongdoing and fraud as the family looks to acquire their company. Vivek Iyer is standing by now with more on the allegations and the Burman family's response. Vivek, take us through what this is really about, the allegations made, and how the Dabur family is responding.
Well, ever since the Burman family had given an open offer to the shareholders of Religare Enterprises, there have been multiple allegations that have been leveled against the Burman family, and this is now being done by the independent directors of Religare Enterprises. Now, what the ET reports is that the independent directors have written to the regulators, that is the RBI, the SEBI, as well as the insurance watchdog, that is IRDAI, alleging various wrongdoings on part of the Burman family. In fact, out of the 6-member board, ET reports that 5 of them are independent, and the board is led by Executive Chairperson Rashmi Saluja. We reached out to both, the Burman family as well as Religare Enterprises. The Burman family has given a point-by-point rebuttal to all of the allegations leveled against it by the Religare Enterprises independent directors. The first allegation is that, Burmans are in material breach of regulatory obligations that may harm the firm. They respond saying that, the Burman family has purchased all of the shareholdings in Religare Enterprises through transparent market purchases and preferential allotment in prior fundraising exercises that was approved by the board of Religare Enterprises. There is no market manipulation whatsoever. Secondly, the independent directors state that parties seeking to acquire the business ought to be scrutinized for the fit and proper criteria. They respond saying that, the Burman family and its members satisfy all norms of fit and proper criteria mandated by financial services regulators, and this allegation is baseless and devoid of any merit. The third allegation is that, the allegations include charges of collusion with earlier owners, that is the Singh brothers, and also there is a pending case of fraud against Dabur India chairman Mohit Burman. They respond saying that, these allegations are false, frivolous and defamatory in nature. Along with that, they say that the charges are being made to divert attention from the main core issues that plague Religare Enterprises. Also, there have been questions that have been raised by independent directors about the source of funds to be used for the acquisition. There's a strong rebuttal coming in as far as this particular point is concerned. The Burman family says that, they run a significantly large family investment office and has sufficient assets far in excess of the proposed acquisition. They are saying that the reference to our activities being fraudulent and illegal is baseless as well as defamatory. Now remember, Religare Enterprises has 4 key businesses. Religare Finvest, to acquire this particular business, there could be an RBI approval that could be required. The Care Health Insurance is the health insurance provider. To acquire this particular business, there could be a requirement to get an approval from IRDAI. Religare Housing Development and Religare Broking, 2 are the other businesses that are being held. It's a very interesting story. Remember, we've reached out to Religare Enterprises as well, and so far we are yet to receive a response from them.
Vivek, many thanks for joining us. On to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs is likely to recommend an investigation into the books of MG Motors and Vivo. Sources tell CNBC TV18 the Registrar of Companies has alleged that these firms funnel money to their Chinese parent companies. Genpact has announced that CEO NV Tiger Thiagarajan is set to retire on the 9th of February 2024, ending his 19-year stint at the company. The board has appointed Balakrishnan Kalra to take over the post. Kalra currently heads Genpact's financial services and consumer healthcare businesses. Pidilite Industries intends to pilot its NBFC business in just one region for the first 6 to 9 months, and that is the word in from the company's managing director, Bharat Puri. Speaking to CNBC TV18 earlier today, Puri said that Pidilite will keep its lending business separate from its core business. Here's Bharat Puri.
We will first actually just pick one small geography for the next 6 to 9 months, actually in that geography, test all of our assumptions, see their work. We will be in a position, much better position to answer your questions, both on risk profile as well as management bandwidths. But frankly, we don't see that as an issue because all of these people are known people. This is not a new business for us. There is nobody new that we will be dealing with in this business.
Well, that is Bharat Puri. Now, the Bombay High Court has directed the Income Tax Department to refund 1,128 crore rupees to Vodafone Idea for taxes paid for the assessment year 2016-2017. Now, the High Court has ruled that the assessment order passed in August this year cannot be sustained as it was time-barred. The two-judge bench also recommended a detailed inquiry against the assessing officer for not passing the final order within the mandated time. The Madras High Court has ruled that Tamil Nadu's ban on online gaming and gambling cannot extend to games of skill. The court has upheld that while the state can regulate online games, it cannot impose a blanket ban. Now, this decision comes after several gaming companies moved the High Court challenging the ban. In a bid to fast-track pending cases against elected representatives, the Supreme Court has directed all high courts to initiate suo motu proceedings. The Apex Court has called for regular monitoring of pending trials against MPs and MLAs. The court has also asked judges to facilitate special courts and has laid down uniform guidelines for such cases. The centre has cleared the appointment of 3 High Court judges to the Supreme Court Justices Satish Chandra Sharma, Augustine George Massey and Sandeep Mehta were recommended for elevation by the Supreme Court Collegium earlier this week. With this appointment, the Supreme Court will finally be back to its full strength with 34 judges for the first time in the last 18 months. Well, up next on India Business Hour, air quality remains hazardous across Delhi and large parts of North India. The Union Cabinet Secretary chairs an emergency meeting. That and more when we return. Catch all of CNBC TV18's news and updates on WhatsApp, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Now, Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud completes a year in office today. From the Adani Hindenburg issue to the same-sex marriage case, there were several crucial judgments in his first year. Ashmit Kumar is standing by to take a look back at some of the crucial verdicts delivered by the Chief Justice. Ashmit.
Well, as Justice D.Y. Chandrachud completes a year at the helm, here's a look back at 8 key developments. Now, the biggest corporate case of 2023 has been the Adani Hindenburg case. In March, the CJI formed an expert committee and directed SEBI to complete investigations. SEBI informed the Supreme Court that probe is complete in 22 out of 24 cases, but is still waiting for information from regulators overseas. Expert committee, meanwhile, concluded that there was no regulatory failure and neither was there any evidence against Adani. Petitioners, however, have flagged repeated adjournments in this case. Number 2, in a crucial dispute, a bench headed by the CJI held against the centre and in favour of the Delhi government on the issue of control over officers. The Supreme Court held that division of powers must be respected. However, within days of the judgment, the centre came out with first the ordinance and then the GNCTD Amendment Act, giving the Lieutenant Governor the sole powers over officers. Speaking at a public event recently, the CJI had remarked that the legislature cannot overrule the Supreme Court. Number 3, the CJI took on the mantle of deciding the fate of abrogation of Article 370 after 16 days of hearing. The judgment was reserved by a 5-judge bench. It had been referred to 5 judges 4 years ago in 2019. The judgment will be pronounced before the year end. Number 4, the Sena versus Sena battle in Maharashtra was also decided by the CJI-led bench. The Supreme Court held in favour of the Eknath Shinde camp, but at the same time directed the Speaker to decide the appeals from the Uddhav camp on disqualification against the Shinde camp within a reasonable time. It's been 6 months since then. More recently, the CJI has warned that disqualification proceedings can't be turned into a charade by allowing the government to continue till the next elections. Number 5 was the battle by the queer community for equal marriage rights. The Supreme Court has answered that question by giving a big no to legal recognition for marriage, for unions, or even for rights flowing out of a union. The CJI was in a minority. He had directed for allowing adoption rights to queer couples. The CJI had held that denial of marriage rights was a violation of fundamental rights. Number 6 could well be, it could hold the key for the upcoming general elections. We're talking about electoral bonds. The CJI-led bench has reserved the judgment. During the hearing, he made key observations. He noted that the bonds seem to provide selective confidentiality where the ruling party could gain access to donor details. He also noted that bonds should not legitimize kickbacks. Number 7 saw an exchange of fire between the then Law Minister Kiren Rijiju and the CJI. The Supreme Court Collegium under the CJI had recommended the name of Advocate Saurav Kirpal for elevation as a Supreme Court judge. The centre sent the file back with citing Raw's objections to the advocate being openly queer. In an unconventional move, the Supreme Court Collegium resolution made public the Raw findings. The Collegium resolution said that that cannot be basis for rejecting a candidate for being openly queer. Soon after, Kiren Rijiju was shipped out of the Law Ministry and replaced with Arjun Ram Meghwal. Justice Chandrachud has exactly a year to go before he demits office, and the CJI is looking determined to take on complex, volatile matters before his term ends.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. The Chief Justice completing a year in office. The big global story, Israeli troops continue to deepen their presence in Gaza City in a bid to tighten their hold over Hamas. Thousands of Palestinians have fled from North Gaza towards the south after Israeli forces said that they've entered the heart of the territory. However, despite Israel's orders, forces have continued to strike areas in southern Gaza. A residential building was bombed in Khan Yunis, killing 6 people. Negotiations are underway for a 3-day humanitarian ceasefire. Reports have suggested that the deal would enable more aid, including fuel, to enter the besieged territory. Officials have said the deal is being brokered by Egypt, Qatar and the US. However, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has repeatedly insisted that there will be no ceasefire in Gaza until hostages are freed. The Israeli Defense Force has also claimed to have destroyed entrances of 130 tunnels in Gaza since the beginning of the war.
The atrocities perpetrated by Palestinian armed groups on the 7th of October were heinous. They were war crimes, as is the continued holding of hostages. The collective punishment by Israel of Palestinian civilians is also a war crime, as is unlawful, forcible evacuation of civilians.
We had in-depth discussions about the steps that we are taking to address urgent needs on the ground. We all agreed that humanitarian pauses would advance key objectives: to protect Palestinian civilians, to increase the sustained flow of humanitarian assistance, to allow our citizens and foreign nationals to exit, and to facilitate the release of hostages. When it comes to post-conflict governance in Gaza, a few things are clear and necessary. One, Gaza cannot be continue to be run by Hamas. That simply invites a repetition of October 7th, and Gaza used as a place from which to launch terrorist attacks.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping are likely to hold bilateral talks in San Francisco on the 15th of November. The two nations have not formally confirmed the meeting, but have made arrangements to hold the meeting on the sidelines of the upcoming Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. And speaking of bilateral talks with China, Japanese Prime Minister Kishida is considering holding bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the 16th of November. The talks will be held in San Francisco on the sidelines of the APEC summit next week. The Gulf Cooperation Council have unanimously approved the introduction of a unified Gulf tourist visa. The system, which was announced that the Council's 40th meet, is expected to come into effect in 2024. The decision is expected to streamline travel logistics. So like the Schengen, the Gulf Cooperation Council looking at a unified tourist visa. Back home, the air quality in Delhi and large parts of North India remains severe and hazardous. After being directed by the Supreme Court, the Cabinet Secretary chaired a meeting of Chief Secretaries of Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, UP and Rajasthan. Sources say what emerged during that discussion was that 38% of the air pollution was contributed by stubble burning. Sources add that the Punjab government has been told to take effective actions to stop stubble burning in the state for the remaining days of the harvest season. Meanwhile, cab aggregator Uber has urged the Delhi government to reconsider the ban on vehicles that are not registered in Delhi, saying that the proposed ban will cause a massive inconvenience to users. The Supreme Court had proposed to the Delhi government to ban non-Delhi registered taxis to fight pollution. Quick look at some of the other headlines tonight. India has filed an appeal against the death sentence handed down to 8 Indian former Navy personnel in Qatar. The Indian government received another round of consular access on the 7th of November. The MEA is in touch with Qatari authorities. Legal and consular access has been given to all 8 Indian nationals. A border security force personnel was killed after a ceasefire violation by Pakistani troops along the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. Officials say the Pakistan Rangers resorted to unprovoked firing along the border around midnight. This is the third ceasefire violation along the international border in Jammu since October. Telangana Minister K.T. Ramarao and other leaders from the Bharat Rashtra Samiti had a narrow escape after almost falling from a vehicle during an election rally. In a video, the leaders are seen standing on top of a campaign van, and the van suddenly stopped. The leaders were seen toppling on each other. The Lok Sabha Ethics Committee has adopted a report recommending the expulsion of TMC MP Mahua Moitra from the Lok Sabha. Moitra has been indicted for, and I quote, unethical conduct for sharing her Lok Sabha login credentials with unauthorized personnel. The TMC MP has said that even if she is expelled, she will be back in the next Lok Sabha with a bigger mandate. And before we wrap, British car maker Lotus is driving into India with the launch of its electric SUV called Electra. Danish Anand reports on the entry of Lotus, its growth plans and what it means for the Indian auto market.
The iconic British supercar maker Lotus Cars has finally made its debut in India. The company has launched its first product, an all-electric compact SUV called the Electra. Well, the Electra has been launched in 3 different variants and can offer you a range up to 600 kilometers, and the prices of this car begins from rupees 2.5 crore. Well, the company is also hoping to get a good response for its debut product.
We have carefully assessed the situation in India, and also we had to look for the right partner. Exclusive Motors is what we believe the right partner for us to drive the brand across the country, and it is now the right time for us to be here.